So I've been meaning to get back to this comment. Yes, 100%. They are much more chill and content than my Singletons were as babies. And I think there's kind of two reasons why. One is, I've explained this before, the NICU journey. So the start of their life, I held Frankie on the theatre table when I was having a C-sec. She was the only one I could hold when they were born. I then held Elsie 8 hours, Frankie again, I think on day 2, and Louis was about day 3 before I could hold Louis because he was ventilated. So from birth through the NICU journey, they're obviously not held a lot. And with a Singleton, you often come home and family come to visit or friends come to visit, and they're passed around quite a bit. But with the babies, it was only myself and their dad that was holding them, and my mum, because she was the third person that was allowed in NICU for us. We had an extra person, who were the only person that held them in NICU, and it really wasn't that often. It really depends whether they were awake or asleep, or whether they were having tube feeds at the time, or their tube feeding would be sort of every half hour I was feeding one of them, and then by the time I'd finished tube feeding, I'd only have half an hour break before we'd start again down the line of all three, because they were on 2-hour feeds originally, so there wasn't really much time to hold them in NICU. And then when we came home, it wasn't like a normal bringing a Singleton home. I didn't want visitors straight away because they were preterm and so small and prone to obviously getting colds and things if other children were around, that I kind of limited the access to see them for quite a while. So they weren't really passed around and held like that, and they naturally got used to the fact that I couldn't pick all three up. But they were so content coming in from NICU that it was rare that I had to kind of leave one crying to deal with the other two. So it's kind of a mixture of the NICU journey and also them just understanding that I can't get to them as quickly as I would a Singleton. And they, like I say, they self-settle themselves to sleep at night. I put them down in the cot, they go to sleep. In the day now, they now go down in their cots probably 2 or 3 times in the day to sleep. And they self-settle. And even when they're poorly at the moment, and they are really content even when they're poorly. They do want extra cuddles, but they compare them to a Singleton when they're poorly, they're so much more content. So yeah, I'm very, very lucky. They're very content babies, all 3 of them. And so much more content than Singletons.